From the John DeVito Broadcast Center. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Paranormal Radio with Bob Trezciak on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network. So sit back and enjoy Paranormal Radio. And now, here is the number one king in Paranormal Radio, Mr. Bob Trezciak.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. It's been a little bit since we've done a show. We were just talking about that before we started taping tonight, and the last one we did here was December 7th with the guest that we've got on tonight, with Pete Gravy. Pete was my last guest that we had on, and that was December 7th. We were supposed to do a January show, but then what happened was I wound up getting sick. I actually had COVID. And so if you've ever had COVID, you kind of know that's a couple of weeks of recovery with that. So I was a little sick with that, and the January just did not go too well. So we didn't do a January show, but now we're doing one for February here. We want to do something. My original idea for tonight was to do a solo show. I haven't done that in a long time. Once in a while, I like to talk about Titanic, or I like to talk about ghosts in the White House, or ghosts of New Orleans, or some other subject of mine that's kind of a favorite. And I thought for February like this, I'd like to do a little bit about ghosts in the White House and some of the things that go on there with that. Some of the historically documented ghosts and some actual things that have happened in the White House and that. And then, of course, we've got Pete on, too. So we'll be talking with Pete about something entirely different other than ghosts in the White House, because we never know what direction Pete is going to go when we talk. But he's always interesting, and I enjoy having him on here. And he's welcome to come on anytime he should choose to come on. Yeah. I was just looking over here. We've got a picture sitting over here before we started. I noticed that of our good old friend, Mr. Jack Red Ryan. And Jack passed away like 1 year ago, right around this time. It was in February, right around this time when he passed away. So it's about a year anniversary that Mr. Red Ryan, Jack Ryan, is no longer with us. Yeah. Very sorely missed. A wonderful gentleman. Loved him a lot. He's a great guy.
Maybe he can visit tonight.
As a matter of fact, Jack is the reason I'm here. Because Jack was already doing a show here at the Windy City Network, and I came on his show a couple of times as a guest. He did meet Chicago historians, and then they kind of got the idea for me to come here and do the shows here once a month and that. I had already been doing them over at WARG Radio, so for a while I kind of had an overlap there for a few months where I was doing the two shows, and then now we're just strictly here like this. Anyway, to get to business, oh, my Lord in heavens, the weather. I hope everyone is doing okay and being careful and being safe and just taking it easy with this weather. And I hope no one's had too many problems with that. Just be careful with everything. Watch out for stuff. Be careful with the ice on the roofs now. That's going to be a big problem with the warm-up coming for this week. So just watch out for that and be careful with that. Today is the actual official George Washington's birthday. Years back, if you're old enough to remember when we were kids, years back we used to celebrate the two birthdays. We used to celebrate February 12th, which was the official Lincoln's birthday. We used to have that day off from school. Yay! And then we used to actually get off George Washington's birthday, February 22nd. Yay! Unless, of course, it fell on a Saturday or Sunday, you lost out on it. But if it was a weekday, whatever day it fell, you got that. Now we no longer do that. We have what they call President's Day now, which was last week Monday. And that's just to honor all the presidents. But anyway, today is the official George Washington's birthday. Right about the time of Washington's birth, the calendar changed for whatever reason. I don't know why. The calendar changed, and that's how his birthday fell on the 22nd. So it may not have technically have been on the 22nd, just like Jesus may not have actually been born in the year 1. It may have been another time, and the calendar changed there too.
Wasn't Jesus an alien?
Well, we don't want to get into that. We can talk a whole thing about Jesus being an alien and being a zombie and all that other stuff. But we'll do another show about that. We'll come and do another show about that. Unless when you get your slot, if you want to talk about that, you talk about that. Whatever you want to do. Anyway, what I want to talk about just a little bit, and I'm not going to go into all the details of this because I actually do a whole program on ghosts in the White House and that, with some old recordings and things, because I got some old archival 78 recordings of presidential voices and McKinley's funeral service and stuff like that they used to put out for folks way back in the day. But I need to hoot. I just to refresh my memory, because I haven't talked about this in a while, I went to the library this morning en route coming here. I actually had another stop too. And I just pulled up a couple of things off of Wikipedia and off of an article I saw. So I punched up Ghosts in the White House. First couple of things that came up, click, click, click. I printed them and I got them just to sort of refresh my memory. And I actually did find a couple of errors in them, but that's why I always tell people, you got to be careful with your internet and what you read and what you see, because you do find errors
like
in them.
Bachelor's Grove on Wikipedia. Errors.
Yeah. We find that all over the place.
Hijacked by commercialism.
So anyway, I'm going to read just a little bit of this here for you. It says, a lonely night in 1946, President Harry S. Truman went to bed at 9 p.m. About 6 hours later, he heard it. Knock, knock, knock. Sound against his bedroom door awakened him. He wrote to his wife in a letter that is archived in his Presidential Museum and Library. So this is a documented instance. That's what I like. This isn't a hearsay one. It's actually something that is documented. He says, quoted, I jumped up, put on my bathrobe, opened the door, and no one was there. I went out, I looked up and down the hall, looked in your room. He's referring to his wife now when he says your room, because he was writing a letter to his wife, Bess, and Margie's room, and Margie was his daughter, Margaret. So he looked in both of their rooms, and still no one was there. He went back to bed. He says, went back to bed after locking the doors, and there were some footsteps in your room whose door I had left open. Jumped up, looked, and no one was there. The damn place is haunted, sure as shooting. The Secret Service says not even a watchman was up here at that hour. He says, you and Margie had better come back and protect me before some of these ghosts carry me off. So apparently Bess and Margaret had not been in the White House right at that time. They were probably somewhere else in Missouri or wherever they were. And he was in the White House by himself, and this was all going on. But nonetheless, this is documented. However, this is not the first time that this has happened. Long before 1946, before Truman took office, John? Yeah, long before Truman took office, there have been reportings of ghosts in the White House. We've had a lot of things happening in the White House there. One of the earliest known ghosts that people claim to have seen is that of Abigail Adams. Abigail Adams' spirit has been known to be seen in the East Room, and people that have seen the apparition of her claim she walks through the room and her arms are outstretched as if she's carrying something. And we all know the famous story of the Adamses, of course, being the first presidential family to reside in the White House, and Abigail hung her laundry and sheets and things in the unfinished East Room. That's where she hung them because it was a dry place, and it was, there were no clotheslines outside or anything. Everything was so new. So that was the only place she could think of to hang laundry in, and it worked out nice for her. So they see her walking through there. What they assume is her carrying stacks of clothes, folded clothes, or clothes to be hung up, or whatever it may be. But nonetheless, that's happened. And the first time in everything I've researched on that was reported was during the administration of William Howard Taft, which would have been in Taft was in there in 1909, right after Teddy Roosevelt's administration. Right after Roosevelt had done, I'm talking about Teddy Roosevelt, had done some extensive remodeling to the White House. And then it sort of shakes things up and stuff happens. So that's the first ghost we have. Now, George Washington's spirit, nothing. We have nothing at all. I've never known of anything of George Washington's spirit at all. George Washington, of course, never did live in the White House.
Did you know George Washington, this is still on topic, he was portrayed and painted in pictures, I guess, as an angel.
Oh, yeah.
As an ascended being of some kind later on in life.
Very much so.
But,
yeah.
But go on, yeah.
Very idealized, like a Roman god and a
strange
god.
Stories,
yeah.
But,
there's a lot of things about him. I'm going to tell you one that's a little stranger. You may not even know. I'm going to get to that in just a second here. George Washington, like you said, nothing peculiar about Washington's ghost anywhere, either at his estate, Mount Vernon, or, of course, in the White House, because he never lived there. He did, however, pick out the spot where the White House was to be built. He did choose that himself. He liked that spot where it's at now. And there is some evidence that during construction he may have gone there and entered it and kind of looked around, but he never lived in there because it wasn't finished. It wasn't finished until 1800, till John Adams and Abigail Adams moved in. There is, however, a strange little thing about George Washington that he actually may have been buried alive. And the way this is a little strange. Yeah, the way this happened was Washington sort of went into a coma. He caught a really bad cold and a flu, and he went into pneumonia with this, like a pleurisy, and at that time, doctors bled you. That was like a remedy that they used, believing they're taking the bad blood out and you'll recover from that. And they think what may have happened was they may have bled him a little too much, caused him to go into like a coma, into an unconscious state, and he may still have been alive, or there may not have been that much of a pulse beat, but he was buried. And the reason they say this is because later on, when his body was moved into a more permanent tomb, They did open his casket to permanently identify his body, and they noticed it to have shifted and been in an unusual position, as if he may have been alive and moved or something. But we don't know. It's just a story, one of those things.
Somebody
that he may
dropped
have
the box and didn't say anything.
It could have been, yeah. But, well, if you dropped the box, your arms wouldn't be up like you were reaching towards the lid. But anywho, that's what they said about him. So, anywho, we don't really know about that. But nonetheless, nothing about Washington's ghost. Okay, one that I do want to get to, we have many ghosts. Dolly Madison's ghost haunts the Rose Garden in there. That happened during the administration of Woodrow Wilson, when Wilson's first wife, Ellen, wanted the Rose Garden moved, and workmen were out there doing that, and Dolly Madison's spirit came out and was yelling and screaming at them and everything, and David workmen got scared, dropped their shovels, and decided to leave the Rose Garden where it is, and it still is to this day. They never did move that garden. And the Madisons also, Dolly Madison and her husband, President James Madison, had the distinction of being President and First Lady during the War of 1812 when the White House was set fire to. British invaded the city of Washington, set fire to the Capitol in retaliation for an attack we did on them in Canada, and pretty much burned everything up to the ground. Nothing too much left of the White House except its outside walls. And then they took up residence in the Octagon House, while the White House, of course, was going through reconstruction and being rebuilt. And the Octagon House is known to have a couple of hauntings in it. Two of the gentlemen, I forget the gentleman's name, a very well-to-do gentleman that actually built Octagon House, two of his daughters' spirits are known to haunt that house because supposedly they had wanted to be married and the father did not approve of either marriage, and both daughters, for whatever reason, died on the same staircase, tripped and fell on the same staircase, which is very unusual.
On different days.
Oh, of course, different days.
Okay.
Yeah, different days, different times, but nonetheless in the same spot. And their spirits have been known to haunt the Octagon House, as well as that of the spirit of Dolly Madison sitting on the front porch of Octagon House. So we have that going on. Lincoln's ghost. I'm kind of jumping up into this. There are reportings and sightings of that. Many of Lincoln's is probably the more famous ghost that claims to haunt the White House, as well as a few other spots, too. The first noted time that I could see documented when anyone claimed to have seen Lincoln's ghost was in the 1920s during the Coolidge administration of our President Calvin Coolidge. His wife, Grace Coolidge, claimed she went into the Yellow Oval Room, which during Lincoln's time was his library. And she claimed to see the president staring out over the Potomac with his hands behind his back, and then when she entered the room, he turned around, acknowledged her, and then dematerialized. However...
See, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's like one thing to see
Mm-hmm.
something in time or whatever. But
absolutely, I agree, yeah.
something acknowledges you.
Yeah. And then there's other famous stories about different staff through the years and different presidents. Now, other presidents have claimed to have felt his presence, but not actually seen the apparition. There is a famous story now of Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands when she was staying during the administration of Franklin Delano Roosevelt during the 40s. She had been staying. Now, the article that I took, this is where one of the errors, it says, more sightings would come in the decades of presidential administrations that followed. Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands was sleeping in the Lincoln bedroom. This is where the error is. In 1942, when she reportedly heard a knock on her bedroom door, opened it to see the bearded president and fainted. Well, what's not true about the story was she was not staying in the Lincoln bedroom. She would have been staying across the hall in what would have been called the Queen's bedroom, which is reserved for high-ranking, or the Rose bedroom, which is reserved for very, very high-ranking female guests. The Lincoln bedroom is for high-ranking male guests. They stay in there. So she did not stay in the Lincoln bedroom. Where the Lincoln bedroom is presently with the furniture in it is the Lincoln bed and Lincoln furniture. Lincoln never slept in that bed, but his son Willie did die in it. That's part of some of the furnishings that Mary Todd Lincoln bought for the White House when she, during her administration, her tenure, and some of the furnishings that she bought for the White House, and that's still there in the house. But their son Willie died in it, but Lincoln never did. And the Lincoln bedroom, actually where it's located now, during Lincoln's term in office, was actually one of his offices, like a treaty room or a cabinet room he used it for. So it would stand to reason that his spirit may like to haunt that spot in itself. But nonetheless, Queen Wilhelmina did not... The stories that I had seen documented on the Queen's experience with that was that she heard a knock on her door, on her bedroom door, and her personal maid was unavailable to answer the door. So she herself answered it, and then she came in contact with the spirit of the president and fainted dead away. And then the next day related that story to the Roosevelts, and both President Franklin Roosevelt and First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt acknowledged that, yes, they have felt his presence. They've always felt something about that, and she was just kind of acknowledging that. Winston Churchill was at that time staying as a guest of the Roosevelts, a frequent guest he was during World War II, this is, of the Roosevelts, and he was staying in the Lincoln bedroom, and he did encounter the ghost of Abraham Lincoln. Winston Churchill liked to walk around naked. This was one of the things he liked to do. When he was in his private room, of course. When he wasn't, he wore like a jumpsuit type thing that he liked to wear. I guess he just liked to be comfortable. What the heck? He's entitled to do what he wants. And one time he was naked after taking a bath, walking with a cigar and a brandy in his hand, and standing by the fireplace was the spirit of Abraham Lincoln. And he claims he said to him, "Mr. President, you seem to have me at the disadvantage." Whereas the president's spirits turned around, smiled, and they just sort of dematerialized. So some of these stories are pretty
that
documented.
Acknowledgement aspect is
I think
important. But
yeah, exactly.
I like
I agree with that one. Yeah, so we do have that one going on. Lincoln's spirit seems to pop around all the time when the country is in some sort of turmoil or something like World War II. Would have been a good time for him to pop around. The Coolidge administration, that's a little different. But the reason I think, my theory is why he may have appeared to First Lady Grace Coolidge is because the Lincolns and the Coolidges shared the same event. The Lincolns lost a son. Their son Willie died on them when they were in the White House. And Calvin Coolidge and Grace Coolidge lost a son that died in the White House. They had two sons, and one of their sons died from a blister on his foot, which turned into blood poisoning, and he died. So maybe that's why Lincoln could have related to the First Lady in her sorrow and her grief, because he and Mrs. Lincoln went through the same thing. So just a theory. Nothing to base this on. But why would he have, appeared to First Lady Grace Coolidge first, as opposed to anyone else? The ghost of Willie Lincoln, Lincoln's son, who did die in the White House. What we can make out is that he probably died from typhoid. Both of their sons, Tad and Willie, were the young sons, and then of course Robert was away at school and that type of thing. Robert was the older son. But the both boys took ill with what they called Potomac fever. But we don't know exactly what that was. Probably typhoid, or it could have been something from the impure water system in the White House or whatever. But Tad recovered from it. Willie did not. Willie died. And through the years, Willie Lincoln's ghost has been known to be seen in the White House too. Seen, of course, first by his father. His mother, Mary Todd Lincoln, of course, held seances and you name it, what else, to stay in contact with not only her son Willie, but also their son Eddie, who had died in Springfield. They lost a little boy in Springfield before he even became president. So you find that going on. And then another more modern story of it I noticed during the Reagan administration, where Nancy Reagan claims to have contacted the ghost of Willie Lincoln. And LBJ's daughter, I forget what her name was, the one that was married in the I think she was married in the White House. Daughter of LBJ claims to have encountered the ghost of Willie Lincoln, and not only just encountered it, but talked to him. And she said he seemed to be a nice little boy. He asked about his pony and how his brother was doing. So, nonetheless, so there again. Now, if this is true, he's sort of still stuck in the 1860s, not realizing this is now the 1960s when Lyndon Johnson would have been in residence in the White House. So he was still stuck back then asking about his brother, not realizing his brother was long gone and about his long gone pony. So you see they're sort of like in a suspended state there, if indeed this is true. But nonetheless, these are documented stories, some of the true ones. Lincoln's spirit also has been known to haunt his tomb over in Springfield. It's been seen there a few times too. Nothing with the Lincoln home in Springfield. Nothing there, but because Lincoln actually loved that home. He and Mary Todd, probably their happiest years were in that home in Springfield, with, of course, the exception of them losing the one son there. But nothing of Lincoln's ghost in the home in Springfield, but by the tomb, people have claimed to see what they attribute to his spirit walking around over there. A lot of things that seemed to shake stuff up with the White House was when there were times of great remodeling and things going on. When the White House went through different renovations and different things like that. During the administration of Chester Arthur became president when President Garfield was assassinated and died, and then he, being vice president, took over duties. And before he would move into the White House, he had everything redone and everything redecorated, and he sold a lot of White House furnishings in China and things just flea market style off to anybody that wanted it. And apparently from time to time too, if you watch Antiques Roadshow, sometimes you'll see some partial sets of White House china pop up on it that someone in the family had purchased long ago from one of these wagon loads of furnishings that Arthur had, Chester Alan Arthur, that is, our president, had hauled out of there just to get rid of it. And there again, some things started to be shaking up around there then too at that time too. During the Arthur administration, you started shaking up some of the ghosts and some of the things. So when things like
I
this
hear a lot
happen,
of stories like that. When
Yeah.
you start to remodel, build, tear things down.
yeah,
dig
when
some
you remodel, you
holes.
start shaking things up. They're a little dormant.
And
Did
then,
John want to talk? Okay, we've got a caller for us here. We got Mr. John Chikanda, who actually is our producer of this show. Pete, you've never
I'm honored.
You've never met John Chikanda, so
No.
at least you'll get to say hi to him. I knew John for about 2 years before I actually met him myself. One time we were doing the show here, and he walked in. But John's going to come on. Hello, John. You on there?
Yeah, I'm here. If you can hear me.
I can.
We can hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear you on this, but I don't know if the listeners can hear you. They can hear you too. Oh yeah, there you are.
Okay.
Pete can hear me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hear you good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But,
How are you?
I'm great, and I appreciate you letting me. I don't want to interrupt your.
Absolutely not.
discussion.
No,
It was
go ahead and
fascinating.
interrupt. Nice to hear from you.
And I'm sneaking in, and I'm trying to live stream this to the Paranormal Radio Facebook page.
Well, hello.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
So hopefully it'll work. We'll see. We're gonna. That's the goal this coming year is to try to reach more of our audience.
Oh, that'll be good.
and
Okay.
Come up with ways that we can engage them
We're modernizing.
and modernize. So
Now, right now, are you
know,
just streaming the phone call? Or are you streaming the show somehow else?
it's just the phone audio for now.
I got you.
And it just eventually, we'll get everything figured out. But for now, I just want to see if I can. I'm experimenting to see if I can get this up and running on the Facebook page.
Right.
And who knows, with an open line, maybe we'll conjure up some spirits to join us in the call. So
Well, if you ever
never
need help
know.
with the technical details, I operate a few shoutcast servers, things like that, write the code. So,
Oh, great.
got a lot of
Great.
background for you.
Well, maybe we can get together on that offline sometime. And
Yeah, if you ever need help.
I'd appreciate the help. So you guys keep going, and I'm just tinkering here on my end.
All right, John. Thank you.
All right.
Anytime you want to jump in with something, please feel free. Just put your
I'll do
input.
that.
Yeah.
I
Wonderful.
will.
Nice
All
hearing
right.
from you, John. I'm glad everything's
right.
going well for you, and thank you very much for everything that you do for this show. I know you do a lot of things for promoting Paranormal Radio here, and you're always looking for ways to improve things in that, and thank you very much. I think you're a very underappreciated person, and thank you very much for everything that you do.
All right.
Okay, and then now back to the ghosts and the hauntings here. And another one of we just faded out. I don't know what happened there, but I just lost my mic. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Yeah, there we go. Now we're back. We're back on again. We just lost ourselves there for a second.
Technical difficulties.
Another little error that I found here in another article that I picked up on. This one is just about Lincoln's ghost. And I just got this right up off Wikipedia. Nothing, like you said, I saw Wikipedia, I printed it, and then read it later. And it says, others, and I'm just going to read what's written here. Others have actually seen the apparition of the former president. They're talking about Lincoln's ghost here. And it says, the first person reported to have actually seen Lincoln's spirit was the First Lady, Grace Coolidge, who said to have saw the ghost of Lincoln standing in the Yellow Oval Room, staring out at the Potomac. That's what I said. And then it says, others that have claimed to encounter him have been Theodore Roosevelt, Maureen Reagan, and her husband. Now, what's wrong about this is, if First Lady Grace Coolidge was the first person to see Lincoln's ghost, Theodore Roosevelt came in 1902. Grace Coolidge was in the 1920s, so it would have been TR, if TR claims to. Well, actually, what they're saying is they claim to have seen a spectral. I don't know if a spectral would be different from the ghost. What is it? Is there a difference in the definition, Pete? Or they're one and the same?
I just kind of forget about a lot of those terms anyway.
I think the spectral and a ghost are one and the same.
You would think, right?
I would think so,
And the next
yeah.
day somebody might say the opposite, so I just kind of,
Yeah, so anyway, those are just a couple of the ghosts that we've got going on there in the White House. We also have the ghost of Andrew Jackson, who is not a nice ghost. People that have seemed to have encountered him have never actually seen him but heard him. Mary Todd Lincoln actually claimed she heard the ghost of Andrew Jackson, and he was cussing and swearing, and she did not appreciate that, and she asked them to do something about that. And Mary Todd Lincoln also had another strange experience for a woman who had many strange experiences in her life. She also claimed to see the ghost of John Tyler in the Blue Room, proposing to his second wife for marriage. But the trouble with this story is John Tyler was still alive when she claimed to see his ghost. So that's kind of an unusual story. It's like, well, do you see somebody as a ghost when they're still alive and just see them transported into another time frame or something? So I don't know about that one. That one and Andrew Jackson's ghost has been documented. Who else do we have there? We have a spectral of a cat that seems to appear down in the lower levels, because White House now has all these sub-basement levels and things like that, and they say during times of crisis when things happen, like during 9/11 when we were going through all that, this black cat seemed to march through there, and people seen him, and they usually pick him as a bad omen, that something's about to happen or something has happened that the country needs to get through. So the White House does have its share of things that go on there. I'm just kind of, like I said, jumping here and giving a little bit of it. Another more famous ghost that appears at the White House, and this is kind of a good one, because you can actually, if you happen to be touring Washington, D.C., and you're there at that time, we actually know a time when this ghost is known to show up. And this is always on July 7th, and that would be the ghost of Anne Serrat. Now, Anne Serrat is the daughter of Mary Serrat, who was killed, executed as being part of the Lincoln conspiracy, as being involved in Lincoln's assassination. Mary Serrat actually ran a boarding house where some of the Lincoln conspirators stayed. And even though she herself had nothing really to do with the assassination, nonetheless, just because she had these men living in her home, she was sort of tied into it, and she was actually the first woman hung and executed. And her daughter, Anne Serrat, shows up on the north portico of the White House on July 7th, banging on the doors. What she was doing was she was trying to get the attention of then President Andrew Johnson and beg mercy for her mother, which did not happen. Her mother was executed. So we do have that. We also have a soldier, a War of 1812 uniformed British soldier that likes to appear, and people see him hurl light a torch towards the White House. There again, something being left over from the War of 1812 when the White House was burnt. One of the more pleasant ghosts that has been encountered has been the ghost of Dolly Johnson. Dolly Johnson was a cook and housekeeper, worked in the White House, and she's been seen down in the kitchen because she worked a lot in the kitchens, and she was a cook for the first family. And old-fashioned dress, floor-length dress, white apron, ruffled cap, and people see her and they say, gee, are they doing something here with people in costumes or something? No, that's Dolly down there walking around. Not Dolly Madison now, this is Dolly Johnson. So we have other people. As early as the 1880s, there was a gentleman, African-American gentleman, Jerry. He was called Jerry the Feather Duster, he was nicknamed. And Jerry worked in the White House doing just that. He dusted all the bric-a-brac and knickknacks in the White House and that. And during slow news times, when there was not much news to report about the president, he would often go outside and talk to the press about ghost stories. And they would print ghost stories. So as early as the 1880s, they started printing ghost stories about the White House. Okay, like I said, we could go on about this. I'm going to just
I'm just listening to it. So,
I'm just going to kind of stop there with that, and we'll start talking to Pete. And
you don't have to.
No,
we'll talk to be a solo show. I just cut in my little blurbs.
No, not at all. What I was going to do, and I've done in the past, I brought some old recordings on that I have collected over the years. The voice of Warren G. Harding on an old 78 RPM record. One of a funeral service of the late President McKinley that they used to sell around the turn of the century, which is about 4 minutes long, or not even 4 minutes, about 2.5 minutes long. So just in case you missed the funeral, you could buy the record and listen to 2.5 minutes of the funeral service of the president. These kind of things were very popular and very sentimental.
I haven't done in a while. I used to, as a kid, I used to take just a sheet of paper, fold it into a cone, and I would tape a sewing needle to the end of it.
Make your own little horn record player.
And I would spin a record on a tape and just, whatever I could, and just like have it.
You built your own Victrola.
It was awesome.
Yeah. You built your own little Victrola. Another record I like to bring on from time to time too is that of Adelina Patty. Now, Adelina Patty was a huge opera star in her day. Unbelievable star, superstar of opera. And she knew it, too, and she didn't let anybody forget it. She used to get, now this is in the 1860s, she used to get $5,000 per performance in gold, which was a tremendous amount of sum of money like that. And she actually sang in the White House when the Lincolns were in residence there when she was a teenager. She sang in the Blue Room for the White House. She did like a private audience for them when she was doing a little bit of a North American tour. And I just found it fascinating that someone that would have sang for the Lincolns lived into the recording area. About 1905, she made a few recordings for the Victor Record Company when she was then in her 60s. And her ghost actually haunts. Really no connection to the White House other than the fact that she sang for the Lincolns. She sang the song Home Sweet Home, which supposedly moved them to tears. It's a very sentimental old ballad. And she always kept that in her repertoire or whatever. Whenever she sang a concert or anything she gave, she always put in the song Home Sweet Home. And that's one of the recordings that she made. And her ghost actually haunts a castle in Wales called Craiganoe, where she lived. And what happens with her spirit in that estate is that whenever they're doing some documentary on her life or they're doing something there in the estate and they mention some role that she did not do in the opera, for instance, Carmen. Carmen was a very fiery and very energetic role, and that was not Patty. Patty was more of a sedate singer, and that's a role she never really perfected. So when they mention it, she gets mad, and things will start flying off the shelves, and pots and pans start flying in that. So they attribute that to the ghost of Adelina Patty. So just a little insight into some of these
I went through
things
something
there.
like that. I was at somebody's home.
You had pots and pans flying off the shelf at you?
Well,
or?
that makes two stories. So it was, let's just say a certain famous female in Chicago area.
Okay.
I was at her house, and she went out with her kids, and I was just there sleeping, taking a nap because I wasn't feeling well. And I wake up to all this racket just banging and banging and banging. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? Yeah, it must be the kids. So I'm trying to go back to sleep. All I hear is all this banging, like somebody's taking the chairs, just throwing around. But I remember, like, wait, I don't remember hearing any voices, but I just went back to sleep. And she got home, and I told her what happened. I'm like, man, what the hell were you guys doing? What are you talking about? And it turned out I'm not the first person to go through that. Yeah. Other people that have stayed there, slept there, have woken up to that for whatever reason. This person associated it to like some sort of weird omen, like they don't want you in the house, so you must be a bad mojo.
Okay.
Whatever.
Just in case anybody that's listening to the broadcast, just in case you're wondering who this person is, if you don't know already, because he's been a multiple-time guest on here, Mr. Pete Crapia. This is me, Pete, talking now and putting his input into it. Yeah.
So my second story, pots and pans, you brought up.
Yeah.
So after my my grandmother passed away, they were going to sell the house, but it was going to be about a year or two before we did anything like that. So they're like, hey, why don't you just live in the house so you can be our keeper? You know what I mean? Like, keep an eye on the place. That's great. So this place is like pretty much it's empty. You know what I mean? And one day I wake up and I'm doing my thing, and then suddenly I hear all these. I mean, literally pots and pans.
Noises and things,
being thrown. I mean, it was so freaking loud. And I actually grabbed a gun because I'm like, somebody's in the house.
Yeah.
But then I realized there's nothing upstairs in the house to bang around. You know what I mean?
Were you in the basement?
Yeah, I was in the basement.
Okay.
So, I went up there, obviously, and here I got this gun, and I'm feeling stupid towards the end, but I'm like, I really wasn't expecting anybody because it didn't make sense.
Gotcha.
Like,
okay, yeah.
There's no more pots and pans in the house. So, can't explain it.
You're hearing Grandma rustling around at the stove.
Well, it's funny, right? No, this
and...
actually sounded more like you took all the pots and pans and purposely threw them on the floor because you heard them like bend.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I mean?
So it wasn't like
that
somebody preparing something or whatever.
No. It wasn't like it was like somewhere moments in time somebody cooking.
Okay. Yeah.
No. It was an actual like. You almost thought it was violent.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, maybe somebody
accidental or on purpose, but it was a violent kind of sound and all that kind of stuff. So, and nothing there. So.
It happens quite frequently where people experience a lot of sounds that they just can't have no explanation for. Sounds and smells, and of course sights. But sights not so common as you would think in the paranormal. Really, when you think about it, out of every I'll just say out of 10, we'll go out of 10. 9 of them, maybe 1 out of the 10, you'll get somebody that actually sees an apparition. Most of the time, it's something else they're experiencing. A lot of times, even what they see are not an actual apparition where they can give a real good description of a lady wearing a white dress or a man in a dark suit. A lot of times, it's more like a shadowy
I always had
figure.
issues with that growing up because I would go through all these experiences. I would keep it to myself, of course. But somebody like my mother, she wouldn't necessarily keep it to herself, but she tells certain people. And she would say she would see these people, and I'm like, are you really seeing these people, or are you just saying you're seeing these people and you're just getting the impression? I always had a problem because I'm like, I never see dead people walking around, or even something in time or whatever you want. I just don't see that. And then it actually developed and it started happening to me. Yeah. And it was like, whoa. But it wasn't dead people. It was other stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It was. It was.
I got contacted the other day, Saturday. I was contacted by a friend. Called me and we were talking and everything. And she had explained that she had been thinking about her late husband, so she decided to contact a medium. And she's doing I guess with this medium they do this over the phone type thing. They're doing it. And it's like a half-hour session she's doing, and she says, I'll be relating to you what happened. But somehow she felt inclined like she needs to speak with her husband who's passed away. And so she's doing this. And I says, just be careful, because I know it's very expensive to do. And just be a little cautious with it. She's a pretty level-headed person. I don't worry too much about her. I think she could, see if it's somebody that's not on the level with this. But nonetheless, it's just something she feels compelled to do. And so she's going to do it. And I will be knowing the results of that in a couple of weeks. We'll see what happened with that. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of knowing results, so behind you, the video system.
Yes. What exactly is this?
Well, this is more of see, I get annoyed.
Pete brought something in, and I just
this
have
is
to.
one of many items,
just because this, of course, is radio. No one can see this. We say, "Oh yeah, what
figured
is that over there?"
film
Well, you don't know
one of
what
these
we're even talking about. Pete came in today with a little toolbox-looking type thing, a small box. Not even a foot long and maybe 6 inches wide.
It's an 8 by 4 inch thing.
There you go. And he brought this thing in, and I have no idea what it is, but he's got it opened up there.
So
and
it looks
doing,
like a Pelican case, one of those when somebody's carrying around something rugged on an airplane.
and it's doing something, and just exactly what the
it's got a
something
bunch of
is, I
circuit
don't
boards in
know.
it. So
Okay.
I mean, right now it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's got a lot of sensors. Let's put it that way.
Now I have
And
had
it's-
people that have come in this studio and they have done this show, and they claim, and there have been a few people that have
This
said
should
it.
capture something.
There have been a few people that have said they have seen something or
Right.
felt something, but
Right.
it's usually back here by the. I can honestly say all the years I've been coming here, and John DeVita here, of course, lives here, and he's never felt anything, and I have never myself. But sometimes just the wrong person, the right person, that type of thing like that. But there have been about 3 people I know that
Yeah, I
have come in
remember
here
hearing some of
and
those
said
stories, yeah.
and said they actually did feel something back here
So
over in
I
the
mean,
corner.
let's
Yeah,
say somebody did want to measure magnetic. I heard about that. Somebody was trying a K2, and that's kind of a joke. Actually, I know how those are built and blah blah blah. But if you were like dealing with magnetic readings, the system I brought today is it's got magnetic readings, but it's not the kind that I would want. I actually built something separate. It's a precession type magnetometer. It actually measures protons and blah blah blah. I can go into that, but
okay.
that's something. But like the box behind me, it's recording video, and video's great and all. But what's fun for me is when you're data logging, when you've got all these data variables, you can store them, to a file, make your pie charts, your line charts, blah, blah, blah.
okay.
But what I'm doing is just embedding all those variables on the top of the screen that's recording the environment in front of it. So it actually takes many different ones at different cameras, different systems.
Well, just exactly what is this thing picking up? Is it picking up the whole room?
Well, right
And
now
it seems
I've
to be
got-
pointed like right at me.
Well, it is generally,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be like right in right
started
directly.
off
I'm like right in the line
more
of it,
like it
which
started
doesn't
off as
frighten me, but
That shouldn't frighten you.
No,
And
not
it
at
can-
all.
And it can hurt you.
No.
So unless you touch it.
yeah, then it blows up or something.
So okay, you got your basic camera. It's infrared style. You got your basic your temperature, humidity, barometric. It's actually measuring gas particles. It's got those non-contact thermometers.
Yeah. mhm.
Okay, it's got something similar to that. So
Okay.
it's measuring the ambient
Temperature and-
in front of the system.
Okay.
Measuring the ultraviolet, the infrared, the visible.
Wow.
So yeah, you had your magnetic, you have your vibration, so you got your gravity. It's measuring
That's a pretty compact box to have all that
the general.
in there.
And there's
yeah.
barely anything in there right now.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's audio levels. It's looking for noise to signal ratio, basically in the environment. But all the regular mics are separate of it.
Will we be able to know at the end of this broadcast if there's anything on there that we could maybe?
I don't know if something can be.
If
visual,
something came up, yeah.
Well, that's the fun part. So let's say you're in a situation, something actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for me, if I picked up an EVP,
Yeah.
because that's what I'm noticing out of the Grove, so that's very
Yeah.
important to me. You're getting these mysterious sounds and
Now,
voices. all
when
that
Pete
kind of
mentions the Grove, that's Bachelor's Grove. in
what
case anybody
are
wants
all
to
the?
know.
I don't care if it's a million different variables or 10 variables that I'm capable of recording at the time. Whatever I can get, I'm happy with. Okay,
sure.
So it'll measure fractions of a millisecond. All these variables, right? On the screen on the camera, it's showing things. It's updating it every quarter of a second. But there's also data files. But anyway, so when we have an event happen, we can go back now and go, was there anything out of the ordinary, or can we profile? Does the humidity have to be a certain way? Does the barometric pressure have to be a certain way? Yeah, we're seeing vaporous whatever. Okay,
I need to cut a deal with you, Pete, about this. Later on down the line, when you go back and review this thing and look at it and everything, if anything does come up on it, we hear any sounds or anything
I'm going
to
splice this show in with this video, just put it up as a demo.
And then we can see what's going on, and then also, too, the listeners and them can see.
And what the fun part, too, is all this is, one of the problems, I wanted this like 20 years ago, but, and I could build it, but the problem was like,
now you got the
I want
free
people
time.
That too. But I want to be able to replicate it, so... Meaning, I want others to be able to replicate the system. So there are certain aspects of the system, depending on your level of expertise, and some of this doesn't take that much expertise.
Okay,
it really doesn't. I write the code, or I take somebody's code and combine my own code, whatever. Anyway, I compile it to the where you go out and you pay $5-10 for this part, and you take the code, you put it on there, turn it on, and you're ready to go. So what box, like this thing, whatever you put it in, is up to you.
Mm-hmm. Can you build this with like popsicle sticks and Elmer's glue? Because that's like the
I wouldn't recommend it.
That's like the extent of my technical expertise as far as these things are concerned.
Like some of this stuff, some of these components require no soldering. Let's say,
okay,
if you know how to drill a hole and plug in a cable, you could probably get, Now some of the other sensors, require soldering, but it's so basic. So it's not like you're soldering parts. Okay. So I've got my own separate system where I design full sensor arrays where the parts and the board, blah, blah, blah. These, you go out and you buy the board for $5, $10, $20, whatever it is, for that particular sensor. It's already got everything soldered on the board. You just solder wires.
Now, this is running on its own power, too, right? You don't have it plugged in or
anything.
And
that was another thing. Why do you want to carry, like the old days, like, I needed a big, like, let's say a car battery. You know what I mean? Like, my God.
Because that's what you...
Now, I take this $50 USB power pack, and... I could sit there for, if I'm actually in record mode, it's something like 8-10 hours.
Oh, okay.
On one battery.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good. Okay. Other things I've got going for 6-7 days on a battery. So like there's other things
Now we also, as you know, record the shows on tape too. I tape all these shows.
Tape.
Yeah, on the old.
I'm not recording audio right now.
So now, you're not recording audio.
No, it's measuring the audio levels, but the microphones for the system.
I was going to say, wouldn't it be interesting if something came up on that and didn't come up on the other, or something came up on both of them?
Yeah. Each mic has its own onboard computer. All the things dedicated to report back to the system. I didn't want to bring everything with me. I just brought this thing.
Okay.
So if I'm at the Grove, I could put this in the center of the cemetery, wherever I want, and each mic can go. Let's say
how big of a range does it have?
Well, I made it to where. She can have a lot of range. Like right now, it's operating on Wi-Fi. So, you look at the range of Wi-Fi. So sometimes 500 feet, 1,000 feet, depends what kind of Wi-Fi access point you get. Right now, I'm running this thing as its own access point, which is only going to give me a few hundred feet. But I've extended this thing to thousands and thousands of feet. And it doesn't just work on Wi-Fi. I'm using all different spectrums. I'm even using ham radio frequencies. I'm a ham radio operator. So I've got telemetry coming over certain ham radio protocols. It's amazing. So even now, not now, but eventually I'm going to release it to where you can go online and just click on just a regular old web browser and see the status report of the cemetery, how active it is, people walking around, the temperature, all that kind of crap, And that was the other thing, like when we record audio out there, it's like, did you hear something? Did you hear something? Is there somebody over there? Well, now, when I'm out there, I can actually have a log of how often the path's being used, or this other path, or the cemetery's being walked around. And it even show right now, if I had the motion sensors right now, on the display, where it'll plop up little indicators of motion active, and there's like.
But the thing is, if you're just getting motion active,
it'll register the motion.
How would you know if it's actually something supernatural or if it's a person out there walking?
Some of them I have built-in cameras for that. For some areas, so the path would have
because you don't want to. If you're serious about collecting evidence, you don't want to.
It's rare for the sensors to be triggered. Now these are passive infrared. These particular motion sensors, these are just basic ones for that. For people, I just want to know people. I don't care about the paranormal right now. For that aspect of it, it's about how cool. Like if I had one sensor across the street by the bike path, reporting back as each biker is going past, I'll know when I hear.
But why do you need to do that? Are you just testing?
No, this ain't about testing. It's about knowing for sure. Okay, we heard something. We're in the middle of the woods. Depending on, let's say, the humidity or whatever. Excuse me. Yeah, sound can travel long distances and blah, blah, blah. You take that all into account, especially with what you're recording with the data. And you can determine, okay, we heard something, we recorded something, that's even better. We know which direction it came from because we have, let's say, 15 to 20 audio microphones running. That's pretty crazy, I know. And so we pinpoint generally where it's at, how active that area was, and so we can even maybe have the same information recorded on different mics. All this kind of gathered up, and we know nobody was over there, nobody was over there, nobody was over there.
Okay.
We cover all our entrances. You know, most people use a path.
Yeah.
So you can be able to monitor each entrance. Anyway, it gets complicated, but I built it. You know what I mean? And it's just like you just need to add more and more and more to it.
We'll have to try it out at some other places too, besides the Grove. The Bachelor's Grove.
Yeah. Well, or you can build it yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, the people, when I start to release this more, it's like, here it is. You could buy this particular computer off the shelf. Back in my day, 20 years ago, the computers I wanted to use, which were maybe the size of my hand, which were preferred at the time, those were still like $400 or $500 each.
Yeah.
Now, I ended up with 2 pallets of them because of a long reason. A company threw them out. And that was one of my goals 20 years ago. It was like, design like a paranormal system and just I was going to give them out free because I got them free. But now today, somebody can go out, pay $5, $10, $20, whatever.
That's amazing, isn't it?
On something called, let's say, a Raspberry Pi computer, and just solder wires, put it in a box. So something like this box behind you, $13, rugged, whatever.
Okay, but then now how would this be different from all this other equipment that these?
Well, that's the thing. I'm not doing it for show. So
no.
I'm going to get that out of the way.
No, I'm talking about like for accuracy and for
that was one of my
gathering
issues.
Of evidence.
How accurate is this?
So now your little $13 box. Is that going to be just as effective as?
Well, this adds up. Once you add in
a couple of
$1,000
of equipment that some of these other
a few $100
people have
just on its own.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then and it's still not even like finishing this particular part. But no, I mean like the basic. Let's say you want to do just a camera. So I'd say splurge and pay $25 for the computer, $25 for the camera, $5 for the connector. You know, maybe $50 for a battery. Depending, you know, if you don't want to run it a long time, only an hour, okay, go pay yourself $10 for a battery. You know, it's flexible, but I mean.
Okay, John is up changing the cassette there, so we have a couple of minutes that we lost just in case something would be recorded. 30 seconds took to change the cassette tape.
I think one of the more practical ones was like the audio microphones that I'm going to be using. Now, the mics that are in them are MEMS technology, which is like super, super sensitive with super, super low noise. And they're just excellent, right? So that's like $6 plus $5, $10 if it's not on sale for the computer. Memory card, SD card price, and a battery. That's it.
John Chikanda, are you still there with us, John?
Talk to me again.
John Chikanda.
I'm in the background. Whoa.
Yeah, wow, they got loud. Yeah, are you still there, John?
It's his mic. You can hear me coughing over his mic.
I don't think he's there.
No, he's not there anymore. Yeah, I was going to ask him what he thought about all this, because John is a pretty techie guy, too. He might be able to...
There are audio streaming services that I use on this as far as in the local LAN system. So when you talk about audio streaming, the show here, that's easy peasy for me, so I could set you up with that. But so we do have certain systems where it's just audio streaming instead of recording. It's just streaming the audio, and then I can record locally.
Now, are you still doing your Bachelor's Grove radio thing?
And that's the side topic.
Yeah.
So some of this data telemetry that uses on all different radio frequency bands. Some of it will report back to my car. So when the car is parked in Ruby Woods at the Grove, somebody can actually now tune in and not just see some of the data come over your FM radio, but then you listen to your stuff. And then eventually...
But now you have a pretty short range to it, only if they're like in the
only
immediate
because of legalities.
vicinity.
Only because
if they're
of
like
legalities.
in the immediate vicinity
That's
of Bachelor's Grove, maybe a mile away.
That's just
possibly,
the FM stuff.
Yeah, okay.
The data telemetry be worldwide, technically. Technically. Because I would transmit those packets out on ham radio. It's picked up by ham radio guys in the area, and there's tons of them. And that stuff gets automatically relayed onto the internet. All this is free. You don't pay for any of this stuff. It's just part of what you do as a ham radio operator.
Yeah.
So like ham radio operators have weather stations. Well, mine would be like a weather station on steroids, adding all these extra variables, and then you just sit there and it like almost like Google Maps. Oh, boom. Okay, the icon just popped up. Pete's there. We see him there. Okay, click on this. Oh, there's all the data. That kind of stuff would happen too. It's flexible, but it's fun. So like if you're in Ruby Woods parking lot, yeah, you can listen to the FM, but you also now take out your phone, connect to the Wi-Fi access point, and then actually see the data coming out of the cemetery on your phone as part of the relay. So you like let's say okay, we've got visitors there. This is actually a practical application for basic visitors. So back in the day, people wanted to know if the creek was passable to go see the house foundations because the house foundations was popular. So I used to put this little icon on my website based on the USGS water sensor, and I do my little calculations, all automated, to tell you if the creek was low or high. Mm-hmm. Well, now when I'm back to doing my thing, it can report back on the FM band too, and the text, whatever, or through your phone to say the creek is passable. Some people go there and go, I wouldn't have bothered if we couldn't have passed the creek. So there's a fun practical application.
There's a service to it.
Kind of, yeah. And so, these are just side things I throw in there just for fun.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
the data's there. I might as well just pass it off to this system and let it get relayed over there. And whoever enjoys it, So, one day I want to pass away. It's like, remember when people did that weird crap? It was fun. It was fun. That part's just fun.
I have to bring up another weird thing, too, about both you and I. We made it.
What's that?
We both made it. We were supposed to remember, we both had that strange premonition. I thought I was going to get it, and I may have missed it by a couple of weeks, because right after, actually Christmas Day was when I actually started getting sick with the COVID. And then when I got real sick with COVID, it was such a miserable thing to go through. I thought, oh boy, maybe I missed my prophecy.
I had it.
Just to sort of explain this to anybody that has no clue what the heck I'm babbling about here, I had a strange premonition, a strange dream that I would not live till the end of the year, and this was for last year. Pete also had the same thing. He also had the same date, and he wasn't going to make it. And I thought, oh boy, which one of us or both of us? I mean, it was just really weird that this happened.
I've been trying to figure that out. I've been very confused.
And we both changed it, so it didn't happen. Right. I mean, we're still here.
2018 going into, or 2019 going into 2020. So in that December area, I actually contracted COVID. This is before the huge, big announcement. You heard about reports all over the world. Yeah. So I was in the Schaumburg area, and that's where the first report in the Chicagoland area was.
When did you have COVID?
I had it for 2 weeks. It went away. It came back for 2 weeks.
When? What time of the year? I mean, was it November or October?
January. So actually December.
Oh, so you just had it this?
No, last year.
Oh, last year.
Before
it even became
before the hysteria.
How did you even know it was COVID?
Well, here's the problem. Well, that was the funny part. I didn't know I actually thought I was dying.
Oh.
People at work were like, "What is wrong with you?" I was actually pissing blood. I couldn't breathe.
Oh my! From COVID?
Oh my God! COVID actually attacks the testicles.
Oh geez!
It attacks the kidneys.
I didn't have that. Yeah.
Attacks the lungs. It attacks a lot of these things. Supposedly.
See, I guess I got maybe I had.
Well, I couldn't breathe. I mean, I could not breathe.
See, maybe I had a mild. Maybe God was merciful to me, and I had a mild case of it because
the body pain.
When I was
so severe.
Oh, tell me about everything.
That's
from
where
head to toe, everything. Or there was
exactly. I couldn't take a step.
Yep.
Every time I walked.
Yep.
Right.
Ditto.
So you get it. So
headaches, bad headache. But the only thing with me is when I went to the hospital,
fast fever, I'm fine.
I had no respiratory, chest clear.
You got lucky.
Nothing with that. They did an EKG, they did a chest X-ray, they did all that in blood work. They did everything, and I had none of that. I didn't have that.
I started showing signs of pneumonia, and when I saw that, and I really couldn't get out of bed, I actually said, "Okay, I'm gonna die. I don't know what this is, but I'm gonna die." My grandmother and others, went through these symptoms. I started recognizing the symptoms. I'm like, "Oh shit!" So anyway, the one thing that kicked it within 1 day was something called AHCC. It's a combination of mushrooms, active hextrose correlated compound. It used to be patented. Used to be given to the astronauts. Now they do something else.
And what does that do?
It's like an immune booster from hell.
Oh.
This stuff is like it actually doesn't treat, it actually cures tumors and cancers.
Where do we get a hold of this?
You don't need to prescribe it. Doctors are now.
Where do you get it?
Any reputable health food store, put it that way.
What is it called?
AHCC. It's just a combination.
What does that stand for?
Active hextrose. You just
C.
Yeah, they'll know what you're talking about. Active hextrose, HEX, right? So TROSC, right? Whatever. Correlated compound. It's not cheap, but it's worth it. You know what I mean? There are some generic brands. See, the patent is up, so now there are some people in the US.
It's in public domain now.
I've tried different variants.
Can you get this
at the
local health food stores?
Did.
Oh,
yes,
for God's sakes! If I would have
known
this, I was just
over
at the HIP today before I came here. If I would have known that, I would have stopped in the GNC.
It's gonna run you $50, $60 a bottle. But
Well,
you get 60
that's not too
pills.
much to pay for some miracle drug,
So
for
take
a
two.
miracle
Here's
cure.
the fun part. When I first discovered
And
it,
this thing is derived from mushrooms?
That's all
now,
it is.
how is it we don't hear about this, though, Pete? I mean, how is it?
no, we do hear about it.
Really?
There are actually lots of medical studies.
Before you just mentioned this a minute ago, I never heard of anything like this.
Ask yourself something. If it was that good, do you think people that are interested in making money would really, really want to push it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So why don't we don't
It's
hear
pretty
about
much
this?
a classic
So anyway,
scenario.
though, this thing.
Anyway, I had this bump in my. I'm
So
gonna
you're
give you an
going to tell
idea.
me this cures?
It doesn't just treat; it can cure tumors and certain cancers.
Dear Lord in heavens!
Okay,
And,
if you have
and you
nerve,
can pick this up at the local vitamin store,
local,
and for
right.
$50, and
Pay for the
and
good
no one's
one.
aware that this does this.
No, there are people that are aware. It's just you were unaware. At the time when I was taking it, not that many people were aware, and there were not too many medical studies. There were just enough to say, holy crap, can we patent this? No, we can't because it's already been patented. All it is 4 different mushrooms. Mushrooms are a miracle. People give mushrooms a bad name, but mushrooms, I can give you stories. Well, my very first dose, because I call him my doctor. This guy named Ben who used to build robots and stuff like that, automate home. He was a fun guy. It's like a father figure, right? I consider him my doctor. I don't like doctors, but he was my doctor. I would take some advice.
Okay.
And some things were happening. He's like, "You sounds like you're a candidate for this stuff, AHCC. Why don't you go get it? It's not cheap." No, it wasn't. So before an hour is up, I actually took the stuff at the vitamin store. I was in the car and I just popped up a couple pills. And in 10 minutes, I started feeling funny. Like I actually could feel warmth in my feet again. I'm like, wow, what's going on?
What do they?
But here's what really amazed me, and he did not mention this. I had no idea about the cancer aspect. I get home and I realized I started touching my nose because I had this bump in my nose for like almost 2 years.
And it was gone.
Gone, never came back.
What are they
So-
selling?
so if
what
you
are
have
they-
like a
when they're
cyst, a bump-
when they're selling this, if they sell this in boxes or liquid,
A
I don't
bottle,
know how it comes.
just
if it's
a
box
jar,
or
a bottle
whatever,
jar.
whatever it is, and you take it
You want the one in the
internally,
glass? It
right?
probably will
I'm
be.
guessing you take it internally. You take a
Just
spoonful
a
of
couple.
it or whatever.
There's a couple horse pills. that's
Whatever
all.
you do. Oh, so they're tablets. They're pills.
No, they're
Well, how are they marketing this as what? Why are they selling it? What is it supposed to do?
It raises kill cellular counts, but it also does a lot of other things. Oh,
Are they
here's
selling it as an immunity
COVID.
booster?
Another problem
or-
was I was having blood pressure issues. I saw I was retaining water and had blood pressure issues. So this stuff, HCC, is a natural way to regulate your blood pressure. So within moments of eating this stuff, I started to be able to take away some of the pain from the walking from the COVID.
Oh, God.
Because the pressure was going down.
Uh-huh.
And actually can use my hands again and stuff like that.
See, me
so it
with
does
the
work
with the
for
COVID,
if you have
for
blood
me,
pressure issues. That's
with me
great.
with the COVID, it was just the opposite. I lost fluids.
I'm a smoker, so I'm developing blood
Yeah,
pressure
yeah, yeah.
issues. So anytime I have
Well, why
a
are you
day,
doing that? Why don't you cut back on smoking?
whatever, smoking gets me out of here, man.
We want to be.
So
I want you to be around for a couple of years.
If I have a
Pete.
bad
Jeez,
day with
you know?
with blood pressure,
yeah.
all you do is take a
See
couple
how
of
he
these.
avoided that?
No,
See, he just
I'm
went
trying to
right
stay on
by.
topic.
Didn't even listen to what I said.
The
Yeah,
smoking?
See? Yeah. See.
Well, that's a natural reaction. Yeah. No, I enjoy my smoking. Most days I really do enjoy my smoking.
I'm not one of those people that runs
I
around.
didn't
No,
like
you
it.
shouldn't do it. It's bad for you and all this kind of thing like
when
that.
I had
but,
COVID,
you know,
I couldn't smoke.
Yeah.
Obviously, I couldn't breathe. I mean, it was almost I couldn't. Whatever. So I mean, that was funny too. When I thought I was dying. So we're going back. We started this because of
Tell me about
we thought
it,
we were
yeah.
going to die, right?
Yeah.
This is the weird me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like this box behind me. I'm actually in the process of building these devices. In the middle of soldering, I was just overwhelmed with the thought: don't bother. Okay,
Not gonna live to see this.
This is your last year
Yeah.
here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean this is my last year here? What am I going to do? Die? And I got no response. Oh, fuck. What's going on? What's going on? And it got a little worse. It got a little worse. This could be a real drawn out conversation. Okay. So anyway, it's been kind of weighing on me. Does that mean my last year here? So is 2020 my full last year here? Because I survived 2020.
Yeah. Ditto.
Now-
So did I. Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
my final test, I think a couple people I told this, like the final test is if I survive 2021.
Oh, why not now?
No.
Don't
Because
don't jinx yourself
because
again.
those
No,
thoughts
come
I
on.
get, whether they're my own or come from somewhere else. let's
See,
just put
mine
it that
came
way,
to me in a dream.
They're never wrong. That's the problem.
Yes.
Any person I've ever predicted a death, every single person, I mean,
Oh, geez.
100%, not 99, every one of them has died.
But you're not supposed to predict deaths.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, too bad. So sad if you don't like it that's possible. So anyway.
Oh, you're mean.
Yeah.
I don't like you no more.
Hey, I got to hug my brother 3 days before he died in a car wreck.
See,
so there's a benefit.
Like around September-ish or so, like right on this time, I had a dream that woke me up. I got so scared from it. I woke up from the dream, and in that dream, I felt myself not living through the end of the year. And then it was really strange.
And you wonder if
had
it's just that you're picking up on COVID?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That was another thing that bugged me throughout the year. I'm like,
I
haven't died yet.
Then
so...
when the Christmas season came around, I was feeling really good about Christmas and everything and all that, which I always do because I've always loved the Christmas holiday. I thought, geez, I think I beat that little strange thing that I had going on there. And then, lo and behold, Christmas Day,
it might come back. By the way,
sick.
Don't get scared.
Oh yeah,
it'll probably. I mean, for me and a lot of others, it was. It seems quote come back, but.
Well, I've heard different things about
this. This is a bioweapon.
I've heard different things about COVID. I've heard people say that
it.
Once you've had it, you have like an immunity to it, and other people say no, you're not, and you don't know. It's all kind of new ground that we're doing here. But anyway, to get back to this AHCC, active hextrose correlated compound.
Good stuff.
What do they sell this for? And if you go to buy this in the store, what is it? And you read it, what does it say that it does?
They just on the label it just says I think something simple like increases killer cell count or something like that. But there's so many studies. I'm surprised you haven't heard of this.
I have not.
There are so many studies on this that it's there's plenty for you to dive into. It's not you're not going to put it all in the bottle. All you have to know is you're not going to die. You can't overdose on the stuff.
This sounds like some sort of a. I mean,
we have things on this planet.
It almost sounds like some sort of a crazy quack patent medicine that they used to sell like around the turn of the
Japanese
century
figured
that
out
cures cancer and does this and that and everything. But if it works, it works.
No, it actually works.
If it does, yeah.
It's just mushroom, but it's mushrooms put in the right combination. Ah. Okay. So
okay.
I mean, there's mushroom compounds being used now to treat heroin addicts and other addicts. A mushroom.
And again, too, I want to make this real clear now. If there's people listening to this, and you're hearing this about this AHCC, please, research this for yourself and everything. Don't say I heard it on the radio that this is going to take my tumor away and this is going to cure me and everything like that. No, please don't.
No, they didn't say all cancers and all tumors, but I can vouch that.
No, but I'm just saying because there are, Pete, as well as I know that there are some people out there that are vulnerable to this, and some people will say, "Oh, I took that now."
But at least they're not going to get hurt.
I don't even have to go see my doctor. I took that. I went to and paid $50. I'm cured now.
Doctors are now reputable doctors. I'm finding out they're not prescribing their patients certain things now. They'll just say, okay, you just go to the store and buy this for that,
and it will help you treat it, yeah.
And these people are doing this kind of stuff.
Well, that's wonderful. I think it's a great thing if it works. I'm going to do some research on this myself.
My recommendation is you're going to find ones out there, certain brands, because now the patent's up and other people can make them. It looked like almost like a black rubbery pill. I don't recommend those. Find the ones that are more of a capsule, like the 2-piece.
Okay.
They put them together kind of thing. Something you pull apart with your hands, but don't do that. Those are the better ones.
So it's a capsule, and you take these capsules, and you're fine.
Yeah. You want to take at least 2. Sometimes they tell you in the bottle take 6 for the day. But for me, I just needed 2. It actually helps blood. It regulates my blood pressure, which is fine. It's great.
So now, how does this?
But it also makes you feel better.
How does this help with COVID? Because it builds your immune system up.
Well, with COVID, in general, with the killer cell count. So if I had this, like say, if I felt weird, that's why I would take this stuff. Now, if I took it every single day for a year, it's probably not worth it in my opinion. But if I'm feeling funky, as soon as I start feeling funky, you know when something's coming on.
But if you have,
as soon as I take it, boom, gone. Or maybe if I go straight week, man, I'm feeling really vibrant. I'm no longer feeling lethargic. Maybe I had some weird gut problem. Who knows what was going on?
But if this does indeed do as you say it does, like it will cure a tumor or something like that, how would you know it's cured?
Well, for me, I told you there was a bump in my nose. My first dose.
Okay, but that's not the only place tumors are.
No,
tumors inside that you don't know.
I can vouch that something like a bump.
Tumors appear in other places.
Maybe
they're
a doctor.
Internal. Exactly. You'd have to. That's what I'm saying. I was getting to that.
Well, maybe
your doctor would have to examine you, and then all of a sudden it disappears.
Your doctor is there to help you. Always remember that.
Absolutely, yeah.
You don't have to do what your doctor says, regardless of what that SOB might say.
Yeah.
It is your choice.
Well, that's what George Burns used to say. When they
say, when you go to the doctor,
when they used to ask George Burns, they says, is it true that you date younger women when he was in his 90s? Yeah, I do that. You still smoke your cigars? Yeah, my cigar in my hand. You still have your cocktails? Yep, I still have my cocktails. Well, what does your doctor say about that? He says, my doctor's dead.
Yeah, good. So, but the doctor's dead, right?
Yeah, my doctor's dead. So,
my point is, let's say you're diagnosed with a tumor.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get chemo. Don't be an idiot every person in my family who's gotten it has always regretted it, right? I saw, there's that testimony. But don't get chemo. Try something else. Try something else that actually has a history of working. This stuff actually has medically backed up, can't refute, kind of stuff like, okay, it actually has been working. We're trying to figure out how it's working so they can figure out another patent to build some BS. But just stick with the basic mushrooms like they did. That's all it is.
No, I've never heard of
fancy.
this in myself, but it's definitely something I'm going to do a little.
So maybe the tumor will start to go away. You say, where's the proof? Well, if you were diagnosed with something.
I'm just saying if it's gone.
Maybe you got bumps on your body. Maybe you feel these hard little bumps.
Yeah, but see, that's external. If you got an internal
don't worry about
tumor,
that.
inside
Start taking these stuff, and you notice, like, wait, that little bump is gone. Wait a minute, that rash is no longer there. You know what I mean? Like you're building your body's immune system back up too. Okay, as you're getting older, immune system dropping. It's now I got these weird things falling off my body and off my skin and off whatever.
God.
You get the point, right?
Yeah.
But if you take these pills, you notice certain things that were bothering you, let's just say, are no longer there, or no longer happening, or certain little twitches or pains are gone. Like, what's going on?
Well, there you have it, folks. Just like I said, every time we get Pete on the show, we never know what we're going to talk about.
Works for me.
And as usual, it's been interesting. We are going to wrap. Pete, thank you so much for coming on again. Always a pleasure having you on here. Come on anytime you'd like to. Also, too, I would just like to reiterate this, too, about this thing we just mentioned here like that. I just really want to stress that anybody's listening to this or something like that, please, research this for yourself and everything. Don't just say, they said it on that show that it works, do this for yourself. Listen to what your doctor is telling you, and that we don't want anybody just going out and getting this and saying, okay, I went to GNC and I bought a bottle of this and I'm cured now. So no, don't do that.
One bottle's probably not going to do it, but
we don't want you to do that. Yeah, and also to inform
really
your doctor of what you're doing. Let what's going on there and that, because sometimes one treatment can not work too well with another treatment, and then you kind of decide which one to do for yourself, what works for you. The best for everyone. The best thing is I just want everybody to stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well, and everyone have a wonderful 2021. And gosh almighty, thank you all. Watch out for the ice and the snow. Be careful this week. We're going to have a lot of water around, probably a little bit of flooding in that. Just take care of yourselves and stay well, stay safe, and everybody have a wonderful 2021. Thank you so much for listening to Paranormal Radio, and have a wonderful evening. God bless you all. Thank you for listening to this show. It's a joy to do these.
You have been listening to Paranormal Radio with Bob Trezciak from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network. Paranormal Radio was directed by John DeVita, and our executive producer is Mr. John Shikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Monday, February the 22nd, the year 2021. Until next time, please be safe and thanks for listening.